All right, so some of you may have noticed over the years all the Pixar characters sitting on the shelves behind me, and there's actually a reason for that. I love Pixar. And yes, I am a 53-year-old who still loves cartoon movies, but honestly, it's the story of Pixar that I love. Because the story behind Pixar may be one of the greatest comeback stories of all time. It's a star-studded cast of people whose paths cross somehow at exactly the right moment. Unbelievable twists of fate, and a crazy idea that almost nobody believed in until it changed an entire industry. And here is the crazy origin story of Pixar. Check out part 2. So this is John Lasseter. And in 1983, he was an animator at Disney. And while he's animating, he becomes obsessed with this new idea, computer animation. He thinks computers could completely change the way that animated movies are made. So he starts working on an experimental project using computer-generated imagery. And Disney rejects it. And then they actually even fire him. But he's convinced that this is the future. So he starts looking around for others that may have an interest in this. And he finds a small group that's a division of a bigger company that are working on this exact thing. So he joins this team. But this group is not a group of animators. They're actually focusing on the computer side of it, building a computer that can actually generate graphics. But here's the problem. This group is a division within a movie company. And this movie company is focused on making movies, not making computers. And the name of this company is Lucasfilms. Yes, owned by George Lucas of Star Wars. George Lucas realizes he's a movie maker and he's not a computer guy, so he decides to sell off this division as a computer company. And this company is about to become Pixar. And the person he's about to sell it to is someone who himself just got fired from a big computer company. Check out part 3. So George Lucas wants to sell this weird little computer division, and eventually he finds a buyer. A computer guy who had just been pushed out of the company he helped create. His name, Steve Jobs. It's 1986 and Steve Jobs buys the group and Pixar becomes an independent company. But Pixar was not a movie studio. It was a computer company. They were trying to sell an incredibly advanced graphics machine called the Pixar Image Computer. Thus the name Pixar. So Steve Jobs buying it actually makes perfect sense. Computer guy buys computer company. Except hidden inside this technology company is John Lasseter, an animator. So as they're developing this computer and trying to learn this technology, they need to make money. They try to find out anyone that would be interested, so they start making commercials. Tropicana, Listerine, Trident, whatever keeps them alive. But little by little, they get better at making animated stories. And one of those animated stories is called Tin Toy, and it actually wins an Academy Award. And guess who notices this small, short animated film? You got it, Disney, the same company that fired John Lasseter. So they hire Pixar to try to do something no one's ever done before. Make a completely full-length feature film with computer animation. And the name of that movie is Toy Story. Except there's one problem. The movie is so bad that Disney shuts it down. Check out part 4. So remember, just a few years earlier, these guys at Pixar were trying to sell computers and making Listerine commercials to survive. But now they have Toy Story, a massive hit. And then A Bug's Life comes out. It's a hit. Toy Story 2, hit. Monsters, Inc., hit. Then Finding Nemo, their biggest hit yet. Then The Incredibles, another hit. 6 movies, 6 enormous successes, no flop. Pixar had gone from a struggling computer company to one of the hottest animation studios in the world. But behind all this success, Pixar and Disney start to fight. And the basic fight is pretty simple. Pixar is creating these enormous hits, and Disney's the powerful partner helping to finance, market, and distribute them. But Steve Jobs increasingly wants Pixar to control more of its own future and capture more of the value it's creating. They can't agree, the relationship gets ugly, and in 2004, Jobs basically says, fine, we're leaving. Pixar announces it's going to find another partner. Think about that. The little computer company that once needed Disney to give it a chance is now successful enough to walk away from Disney. And suddenly Disney is facing the possibility of losing one of the hottest creative companies in Hollywood. So what does Disney do? They get a new CEO, Bob Iger. And Iger has a completely different idea. He's not going to fight with Pixar. He's not going to renegotiate with Pixar. He's going to do something else. Go check out part 5. So it's 2006 and Disney and Pixar are in a fight. Pixar walked away. Disney hires a new CEO, Bob Iger, and he decides to do something that no one ever expected. He buys Pixar. The price, $7.4 billion. But think about how sane this story has become. John Lasseter gets fired from Disney. He ends up working with a tiny computer group inside George Lucas's company. George Lucas decides to sell it. Steve Jobs, who himself had just been pushed out of Apple, buys it. They're trying to sell computers. It doesn't work. They make commercials to survive. They accidentally become really good at telling animated stories. Disney gives them a shot. Their first movie nearly gets canceled. They fix it. It becomes Toy Story. Then they produce a hit after hit after hit. They become powerful enough to walk away from Disney, and Disney's response is ultimately to buy the entire company for $7.4 billion. But here's the part that brings everything full circle. Steve Jobs becomes Disney's largest individual shareholder. Ed Catmull, who was leading Pixar, now becomes president of Pixar and Walt Disney Animation Studios. And John Lasseter, he becomes chief creative officer of Pixar and Walt Disney Animation Studios. Think about that. He gets fired from Disney for pushing computer animation, and 23 years later, he comes back through the doors helping lead its animation studios. And by the way, Steve Jobs had also made his own unbelievable return to Apple. Jobs and Lasseter both got fired and both came back to save their companies. So yes, I love Pixar movies, but this is why there are Pixar characters all over my shelves. Because behind those movies is this unbelievable story about rejection, crazy ideas, scrappiness, failure, persistence, and people who just keep following something they believe in. And maybe that's why I love this story so much. Because if someone wrote the origin story of Pixar as fiction, you'd probably tell them it was too unbelievable.